All right, and we are back. Let's get started here today. I'm so excited. My name is Doug Konopelko. I'm the National Esports Manager for CDW Education, and we have got a great panel here today. We're going to be talking about building an inclusive esports community within education and a little bit beyond as well today. So, if you are here, on whatever platform you're on, feel free to throw your name in the chat, introduce yourselves to us while we go through and do some brief introductions here. So, first up, Jarrell, why don't you go ahead, tell us your name, your role, a little bit about your background, and your favorite game to play currently.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Nice to be here with you all. My name is Jarrell Batak. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of NASEF, recently appointed. Super excited about that. I've been working in the nonprofit and education sector for the last 16 years, really just serving youth and educators and helping support growth of their communities. And currently, and Bethany knows this, the wifey and I love playing Apex Legends together. Those are our date nights. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. Thanks.
Love it. Perfect segue. Bethany, you're up.
All right, my name is Bethany Piles. I've been around for 4 or 5 years now in the esports edu and pro scene. I recently now just joined Galaxy Racer. It's a new esports org new to NA, and I'm their esports manager. Previously Cloud9 Training Grounds, and worked with NASEF as well. But I also work with the Gamehers, which is why I'm here. I run their collegiate manager position and have a really great team where we're building out college programs dedicated to amplifying women.
All right, and
favorite game? Call of Duty right now. Vanguard.
All right, perfect. Dr. Ampadu, you're up.
Hello. My name is Dr. Ampadu. I work at the Tennessee State University. I am one of the directors inside the Smart Technology Innovatives, the Smart Technology Center, right along with the amazing Dr. Robbie Melton and Dr. Deborah Chisholm, who I work for. So technically, my background is in athletics. I've always done athletics since I was 5. I was on my country's Olympic team. I worked with the SEC, Big Ten, MAC, OVC, and so sports is my thing, 100%. And my favorite video game is Fortnite. Absolutely love Fortnite.
Well, I always love these, but I always realize that so we talked for 45 minutes the other day and somehow the Olympics never came up. So I don't know. We got to make sure you work that into that first conversation. So thank you so much for taking that time. So as we get started here, again, we're here talking about, building an inclusive esports community in EDU. So I think the best thing to do whenever we're having a discussion is to define a few terms right off the top. Right. So I'll tackle esports first, and then anybody can hop in if they want to add. But usually when we're talking about esports, and we're talking about competitive video gaming, right, between human opponents. So it can be 1-on-1, it can be 6-on-6, but there's got to be humans on each side of the machines, right? And there's got to be some sort of competitive aspect to it. Is there anything else that any of you would want to add to that definition?
Pretty straightforward.
No, love it. Perfect. So let's move on to community. I know that Dr. Ampadu, obviously you've worked with the community, the organization. So Ryan Johnson and his amazing team over there. So maybe we'll start with you. What do you think of when you want to define community?
When we think of community at Tennessee State University, we think about the type of impact that we can make on the students that are actually in the community. So this past summer, we were able to put on 3 camps. This is our first summer doing the camps. It was absolutely amazing. It was so exciting. And we did not just, the regular video games. We played NBA 2K, which was fun. The kids loved it. Some kids never played before, and it was so amazing watching how happy they were when they beat the other person, and being able, they were easily to be able to be coached along the way, and they were able to take little criticism plus a couple high fives. Definitely encouraged them throughout the whole camp. So They did NBA 2K. Then they did the Sparrow. So we do a lot of coding also in the Smart Technology Center, because coding is obviously a great part of esports. And also we did the virtual reality. We did Beat Saber. So we are definitely trying to introduce Beat Saber to the esports community, especially among the HBCUs. So just in case you are HBCU out there and you guys do play Beat Saber, just slide me a little DM. We'll be more than happy to compete against you.
I love that. Clearly, you've got some fans out there as well. We saw shout outs to Nashville and TSU. We saw Dr. Ampadu in the digital house from Marcus Howard. So, got some fans. Bethany, what for you? You're running the collegiate community for the Gamers. So, talk us a little bit about what that means for you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just a space where you can be yourself. So we create as many channels as you possibly can. It's never going to encompass everything, but essentially in a server, you're just trying to get people to engage and participate as they are. That's not easily done. Sometimes it takes a lot of categories and thinking and innovation along the way, but it's also a lot of conversation. So instead of just assuming we know folks want, especially folks that haven't normally been included in this space, it's really just like a touch and go. What do y'all need? What do you want? And so you're building community based on what our doctor just said, what they want and who they are. And it's the same with the gamers. There's no traditional woman gamer, so there's no one stereotypical anything. So community means, can I bring myself into that place and be fully me? And that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. All right. So we talked a little bit about esports and about community. Jarrell, let's start with you. What about inclusive? What does that mean for you or for NASEF and the community you've created there?
Sure. I think at the educator level, inclusive is really trying to broaden really the participation of educators within the space. Working on the NASEF Scholastic Fellow Program, for example, that's a global fellowship that allows educators from all different diverse backgrounds to be able to explore the intersection of esports and education. And I think when we look at it from the programmatic and the community approach, ultimately what these educators are doing is utilizing the concept of scholastic esports to really focus on the various career pathways that are present within the esports ecosystem. And I think what that ultimately allows is for more students, more young people to be involved right beyond just the traditional competitive player, but to include other folks that are interested in content creation, interested in strategy and analytics, interested in even the tech side of things, like Dr. Ampadu mentioned around coding, but even looking at like business development and all those higher level production elements as well. And I think the more that we can expose the broader community to all of these opportunities, especially the parents and the administrators out there, that it's more than just gaming. I think the more inclusive we can create the space to be.
Yes.
So, Dr. Ampadu, I'll throw it over to you. What else do you think? What else does inclusive mean to you in your work?
Well, based on what Jarrell just said, we at Tennessee State University, I think we were one of the first graduate programs that went ahead and threw in an esports class, which was so much fun. Everybody definitely enjoyed it. And the reason why we started with the grad was because we knew that the people that are inside of our grad classes, they're most likely our teachers, our professors, people who are actually in the classroom with these students. We have our superintendents, our principals. So they're all taking the class. And we thought it would be a great idea to be able to tap into our own community and introduce esports on an academic level. And also we have a academic committee full of faculty members. So everybody from each department, they all come in and they give their kind of opinion on how esports touch each one of their departments. And then we also let them know, say like, hey, if you're on agriculture is so important. So let's say for Fortnite, there's a reason why the kids love how the trees look and how the wind is blowing and how the fall comes and set-ins and how the animal comes. So everything is so important. But how do I know as a game coder to code a tree like this? So like when the sun goes down, how does a sunflower react? Does it know to close at, you know what I mean, at the same time the sun is going down, or open when it's daytime? So definitely including, every department also helps push the initiative of how esports is more than just gaming, and how we can, if we all work together, we can really push the gaming system further than where it's at today.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Also, if you are watching, listening, following along, and you want to throw what your ideas are about community and inclusivity, you can throw those into the chat or into the comments as we go through here, and we'll highlight some on the screen, and I'm sure we'll talk through some of those ideas as they come through. But now that we've got some common language, let's dive into some of the questions here. So when we put all of those things together, right, our topic today is, of course, building an inclusive esports community and education. So, what does that look like, or what does it feel like, right, when we have built an inclusive esports community? Or how will we know when we're done, maybe, if we're ever done, right? What does that look like? So, Dr. Ampadu, we left off with you. So, we're going to go to Bethany next on this one.
I really think this relates to the definitions we just heard. Because when I think of it through the game hers, especially with collegiate right now, collegiate is so hot because it's trending. There's a lot of staff involved. There's money being thrown in. But making it inclusive actually starts from the bottom up. So it's not just about bringing in the best players that are women. It's about coaches and managers and the production and the casting that goes along into it. And can we build from a structure that is inclusive from the start, that women actually want to come in, or people of color feel safe to engage? And so some of this is starting to build. And I think it's just a matter of time seeing that next wave of generation, folks like Jarrell building up the middle school space, the high school space, and then they're going to college and they're already comfortable casting. They don't think anything of it. They're not having this awakening that something is wrong. They're like, I play, I cast, I manage, I coach. This is who I am. The more of that we're seeing, I think these really inclusive universities especially are coming about, and they're leading the charge because they're not really even thinking about it. They're pulling in people that just have these expertise, and they're women, they're people of color, they're not your traditional esports people. I love that. And essentially the game hers is doing something similar where we're trying to amplify those specific people and spaces as women. But essentially it's just helping people find their niche in the esports community. What are you good at? What do you love? What's your strength? Let's plug you in. It's not about how good you are yet, how much experience you have. It's really about if you have the passion, we'll teach you. And from right now, we're just trying to build and build.
Love it. So, Dr. Ampadu, what do you think it feels like when we get there? What does done, if we could get there, look like? What does an inclusive esports community look like for you?
An inclusive esports community is when I send out a flyer for tryouts and it's 50-50 when it comes to females and males who are applying. It looks like us not having to put on, special events to try to bring girls out, you know what I mean, to come and play, to let them know that, hey, you can be a gamer. There's no, well, when you guys are playing video games, I can understand with athletics. I did track and field. I get it. You got the men's race and the females race because some of the, strength issues or whatever. But when it comes to actual gaming and being able to strategize and collaborate and being able to communicate with one another, you guys are all on the same playing field, like hands down. So if anything, it looks like not having to have these type of conversations. You know what I mean? That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like, when it comes to us trying to look for, let's say we want to hire someone for esports, if I get 50 million applications, I only have one female. It doesn't make any sense. But definitely, I know that it's coming. I know in the athletic world, it has been a struggle for years to try to help even out the playing field. So I know it's coming. I'm impatient. I know it's slower than what I like, but at least I do know that it's coming and that we are all working towards more of an equal, inclusive future.
Perfect. Thank you. Jarrell, what do you have?
I think you made a point. I don't think it's ever done. I mean, when we think about the work that we're doing and we're thinking about inclusivity, I mean, there's always going to be some disenfranchised group that is, needs something. And I think what's interesting about esports and even broader into the gaming community is it really is this culture that allows everyone to participate and play. And I think what's important, if we're talking about it in the education space, I think it really boils down to the leaders that are implementing these types of programs too, in order to create those safe and inclusive spaces for the disenfranchised communities. I mean, I look at just in general over the course of the last 3 years of the educators that have started these types of programs. You know, in the beginning, the early adopters were like the hardcore gamers. You know, I'm a gamer and I want to create gaming programs, and that's great, and I love that. But now we're starting to see educators that aren't traditional gamers that will even claim that I'm not a gamer, but I'm willing to learn. And by doing that, by creating more leaders like that that are open to being uncertain about gaming, but are welcoming folks into that space, that also opens up an opportunity for more folks that aren't necessarily identifying as gamers or identifying as I'm part of this community or space, to be able to see that and feel okay to be vulnerable, and then obviously take a risk and join in and have some fun, make some connections.
Love it. That sounds so great. So if that's where we're trying to get to, right? We've got to start somewhere. So, Dr. Ampadu, if you were starting, I know you started your esports program a few years ago, but if you were starting today, where would you start? What might you do as like step one if you want to build this community, this inclusive community? And I'm throwing this to you, but if people want to also throw answers in the chat or in the comments, please do.
I would say, I think I tried to, in the beginning, I tried to think like, what would the students want? And then I realized, how about you just ask them? Like, it's really just that plain and simple of being able to ask the students, what do they want? That's how we are able to grow, not to grow from 4 to I think about 55 students now at on our esports team, is because it's a student driven initiative on what they want. Um, so definitely, if anybody is starting an esports team, I would encourage you to just send out a survey. Ask them what do they want to play, what would they like to get out of their esports team. A lot of times, it's not the video game. Research has shown that it's definitely the camaraderie and the family feel that they get when they're on a team. So one thing that we have to really consider is, it may not always be you gotta have the top game and the top gamers. Just like what you guys were saying, it's about having that community, and being open and welcome, and don't be afraid to let the students lead. So I really feel like that has been our number one successful initiative at TSU. And then also, one other thing, we created work study students, and we allowed them to. So let's say if somebody wants to do, is someone who's really good at reaching out to the other students on the team, or really good at keeping them in check. So we have like a student athlete success coach, and we have like a YouTuber, a Twitch, a broadcaster type journalist position on the team, as well as just like social media people on the team. And then we have like different type of coaches. So being able to have someone who looks like them, you know what I mean, be a part of the initiative, be a part of the community, it helps encourage those type of relationships to be to last longer than me just in your face.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bethany, you've obviously in being at the Gamehers and working with a bunch of different programs, right, as they're getting started, what do you think? What is something that somebody can do as step one? So, this is going to be like process of elimination. Dr. Ampadu already took Ask the Students, so you can't have it. You got to go something else.
All right. That was a good one. That's fair. Honestly, if I could just have my way, which has almost never happened in the esports setting,
Totally
I would
fair.
just ask people to get out of the way, because there's just so many gatekeeping individuals that have just been around forever that they just use their experience and clout to just make decisions for everybody else. And honestly, getting rid of some of those people in these core industries would make a huge impact. So honestly, I would probably get rid of a lot of people that had just been around for a while and start fresh. Because one thing that I've failed to do so far in esports is innovate. Although, I mean, some people may say different, but I think like real innovation can happen, but we have to get kind of these like, I have to do it this way because Cloud9 does it this way, or 100 Thieves does it this way. So my university must have to dress like this, talk like this, cast like this. There's really not a whole lot, even though the uni space is so new, they're still looking at the pro scene. And the pro scene is looking at traditional sports. There's really nobody doing it like for women, for people of color in a great way that's like, having a lot of visibility. I think I would just start from scratch. Like, let's get people in here that just are passionate, have some streaming. They've been doing it on the side. I'm seeing in comments like there's women in their 30s that never got a chance to play. There weren't scholarships when I'm 30, and there weren't scholarships when I was a kid to play or going to college for me. And so, like, there are women that have been in this space that just never had a shot. There's plenty of them, people that are disabled, all sorts of people that have been left out for so long. I would love to bring them in and just pick their brain and build something new. Big dream, but that's where I would start, actually.
All right, Jarrell, you're up next. You can't use listen to the students, and you can't use bring it. Don't be afraid of fresh ideas. That's what we're going to call yours, Bethany. So, Jarrell, no pressure.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure, actually. Honestly, shout out to Gina SR comment, and this kind of goes back, maybe brings it full circle. I think at the end of the day, it really boils down to what Gina said around building relationships. I mean, that if we're talking about building community, at the core, it's really those one-to-one relationships that we're cultivating with, the young people, with the educators, with our broader community, because that, at the end of the day, is how people feel included in this space, is if they feel like they have someone that they can talk to, they have that safe space. Maybe they have a coach or a mentor in this space as well. I mean, Bethany has done a lot of incredible work around that, around creating these collegiate mentorships for K-12. And think about what that does for, just the overall perspective. Like, I feel like I'm included. I feel like I have someone I can turn to. I really feel like just start with those relationships. And in particular with the fellows program, one thing that I've seen in terms of all the educators, beyond esports, beyond gaming, it's that really deep and authentic relationship and understanding of their students and young people in their programs. Once you have that, I mean, that's really where you start, is understanding, and then we can start to build from there.
Absolutely. And NASEF and the Scholastic Fellows Program, obviously phenomenal for doing that. Jen Womble over on LinkedIn just posted, right, that we have a lot of educators leading the charge, but they need mentors, right? So the programs like NASEF's Scholastic Fellows are great for that, right? Because it is building a community that also then helps folks learn how to build a community, right? Which is so important. We're getting really meta today on this one. So, Dr. Ampadu, is there anything you want to add? Because I know we've had a couple other people come in here now and give some answers. Anything else you want to add about, what are other important steps to take as you're building a program if you want to focus on inclusivity?
Yes, I can definitely add. And for the person who stated about, I'm looking for the comment, stated that I'm 30 and I would love to play. Feel free to please and apply at Tennessee State University. We'll be more than happy to have you on our team. Actually, when it comes to grad students, I believe the statistics is 6% of college teams are grad students, where at Tennessee State is 20%, because we're big on the grad school. We're big on grad school because we know those are our pioneers that are looking after our younger students in the classroom, or administrators, or whatever space of work that you work in. So please send me your name. I will waive your application fee, and I'll make sure your first class is free. Okay.
Love it. You heard it here first.
Yes. Yeah. And anybody else, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to waive your application fee and make sure your first class is free at TSU. But when it comes to building an esports team, definitely listen to the students, creating a practice schedule that's feasible for everyone. One thing that we did realize was that the Wi-Fi wasn't as strong as what we liked, because we started during COVID. And so we were able to partner with different companies like T-Mobile, and they were able to give us Wi-Fi jacks to help support our students with our esports initiative. So things like that, and really listening to them because, college is hard, especially the first year. You're away from your parents. Everything is new to you. You got freshman 15 coming. And the last thing you need is while you're playing, your Wi-Fi goes out and you end up losing. Places like Community have done such a great job. Ryan and Chris, big shout out to them. They really helped the process of building a esports team very easy. Being able to get with them, and they were able to help. Let's say that the camps I was talking about earlier, they were able to help sponsor the games for the camps. They pitched in and helped us buy Beat Saber, and they helped us buy NBA 2K. So really having a good network is one of the top one of the top things that I would encourage when you do start. And have like a student handbook. We have one of those also. And if you need one, let me know. I will send you ours so you can see what one looks like. But definitely just making sure that you're there for the, always reply back to all their comments because they need somebody. And when you're inside the college community, they kind of look at you as kind of like as a role model, someone that they can lean on when they're having educational problems and it's hard for them to pass their classes. We have tutors on deck, you know what I mean? And go to I go to the tutors on campus and say, hey, I have an esports team. I'll bring them in to talk to the students about the things they need to do when it comes to time management and being able to study. Just certain things like that help your esports team. So just try your best, think outside the box, listen to all their problems that they're having, and find different ways that you can problem solve them. And then if you can't figure it out, just send me an email. I'll be more than happy to assist.
I love it. I mean, we've got some really great folks posting things in the chat as well, or in the comments as well. So Bernard Maffey, who's up there in Toronto, Canada, working for Fair Chance Learning, who, when I interviewed him once, found out that he was one of the top-rated Super Smash Brothers in Canada. So, everybody's really hiding those things until you corner them. But just said, you can start small, right? And that can come from a casual gaming environment. It doesn't have to be like, we're going to be competitive tomorrow, right? It can be all about just providing really meaningful experiences for people. And then that starts to build the community, and the rest will sort of follow. So we talked about a few really good ideas and things we can do that help us build that community. But I think that I have definitely made more mistakes than anything else along the way. So maybe what are some of the things that they don't have to be mistakes that you made, but something like, potholes to avoid along the way, things that might be tempting for people as they're building out a program, but, we've seen people stumble and fall with, or something along those lines. Bethany, we're going to start with you on this one.
I've seen this in the comments, and it made me think that, and I've heard this a lot, which is a lot of programs strive to win right off the gate. And I think this goes into this really competitive environment first. That's really not necessary. In fact, it's really detrimental to just go out, spend a bunch of money, and try to win. I've seen a lot of universities that have a great college basketball, football team, and they want their esports team to represent something like that. Or they're a very small college and they want the esports team to highlight their university. Makes sense. Like, I get it. But to start off, those pitfalls are going to be a lot harder to take when you're just striving and pushing people to perform under high pressure very quickly. Esports is we already know this toxic traits when you're losing and winning. There's a lot of mental pressure at stake for players, especially if you're in college trying to work a job, maybe you have a kid. There's a lot going on in your head. So to push players to try to compete really quickly and try to win and put everything on the line is going to be your first hurdle, I think. Everybody wants to win, but nobody wants to take the time to bond, make a team charter, create a code of conduct, make sure your players are doing well, and actually facilitate their wellness first. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with a team before you even play that I think is greatly overlooked. I think coaching needs to evolve there in that space to kind of help out. But essentially, you should build your team and the people you have first rather than trying to build your clout.
Yeah, I think one of the other interesting things you said there towards the end about coaching, right, is that so many people that are involved in this space and that are coaching, right, will readily admit to you that they don't really know how to coach these students up, right? How to really get them to either improve their skills. There's someone who's passionate about students, are passionate about esports and gaming, and so they want to bring that opportunity. But I think that's where the community really comes into play, where we're building. I think Chris had dropped in the comments there, like building better people, right? So like, how do we build people that are going to lift each other up, right, and bring that to the culture? So I think, Bethany, some of the things that you shared, right, those relate directly back to that.
Can I chime in one more? With coaching,
Yeah.
I actually think too, it's the same. And there's a lot of coaches, that's just my background for esports is coaching. And there's a lot of coaches that are top 500, they're the 1%, and they'll get hired. But they're so hyper focused on the game because that's who they are at this point, that they've lost track of how to help the team get through really difficult times. And they will induce more stress because they're so game focused. That they're going to forget about the actual needs of the people that they're coaching. And that happens often in esports. The coaches will stay and the players get traded and spun around and thrown off. But there's not a whole lot of building that's going on with coaching. The best coaches right now are the ones that are not great at one single game. They're able to do lots of things. They're learning other games, but they're people focused. And there's less of that right now, but more coming, I think.
Perfect. Jarrell, what do you think? What are some of those mistakes or potholes to avoid?
If there's one thing that I've seen working with, various educators that are exploring and innovating these types of programs, I go back to what I said about, those non-gamers, the ones that don't identify as gamers per se. What I find interesting is that those really brave educators that are uncomfortable and uncertain about it, but step into the space, they suddenly feel like they have like imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not a gamer and I can't do this. I don't know anything about the game. And maybe I need to figure out how to play all the games and learn all the in-game mechanics. But honestly, what I've seen with educators like that, because they're so worried, they end up spending more time empowering all of the young people around them to be able to take advantage of, all of these different opportunities. It's like, I don't know how to do this. Can you try this? I don't know how to do this. Can you try that? And in all honesty, those have been the most successful programs because it's student-led and student-driven, versus the one that may know everything, quote unquote, and kind of takes control of different aspects of the program. So if you have imposter syndrome, if you don't feel like you're a gamer, honestly, you're an educator first. Your role is to empower young people to be able to pursue these particular, interesting and unique pathway opportunities into the esports industry. So that's really all I'll say is just don't trip. You got it. Just keep going. Everyone's here. We're all supporting you.
All right, Dr. Ampadu, what are some mistakes or potholes to avoid? And if you want, we could put a pin in that because there's something that Bethany said that we could talk about first. If you want a minute, you're welcome to have it.
Okay, the only thing I would say, the biggest pothole, and maybe because I work at a university with students and everything's about the student, is not listening to the student. Is the biggest pothole that you can find yourself. Assuming and not asking actually is a big pothole that anybody can get themselves caught in horribly, but definitely just not being there. Sometimes it's good to come up with like a mission and vision that you always have to go back to keep you on track of what's the main goal. And it's the student athlete first, the student esports athlete first. So, and I see this a lot with different other universities who have, let's just say sports in general, and they get caught up on let's say football. They get caught up on football, winning the game, and they forget that that they're a student first, and then the graduation rates go down, and you know what I mean. So definitely focusing on integrity, and then character, sportsmanship, and then victory should be the order when it comes to esports or any type of sport.
Yeah, I love that idea there, and I think that when we talk about winning with teams, right? So in my role, we work with a lot of schools that are starting their programs, and they'll ask about the competitive aspect, and they'll ask about winning and how focused they should be on those things. And one of the things that we like to share with them, right, is that like winning is not the thing that you work on, right? There are like you have to work on the skills, you have to work on the culture and the community that you're building. Like those are the things that you put goals around, right? Winning can be an outcome of those, right? But that's not the goal. Isn't winning. The goal is how do we what path do we have to take to get there, and how do we make sure that we reach each one of those steps, right? Because like winning in and of itself is just that's what happens at the end of the match, right? Every match is going to have a winner and it's going to have a loser, but what are we doing to make sure that we're teaching people how to get there?
Yeah.
And I love that you brought together some of what Bethany had started as well, talking about like a charter, right? So you said, what's our mission and vision? So maybe as you all have worked on starting programs yourselves or worked with other organizations that are starting programs, what are some key things to include in that mission, that vision, that charter? What do you tend to start with, Bethany?
It goes through all staff. So it'll start with player to player. What is us as players? What is our goal? What's our collective goal? And then a charter can also break down individuals. So us collectively, we want to make states. That's our goal. My individual goal as a player may be role specific. I want to work on my resource management. I want to be able to use my ult at better times. I want to make sure my aim is 70% or higher. So there are sort of goals laid out, and I think then coaches also have a role there. So what is the coach's goal for the team? May be different than the team's. It's good to know and just sit down and write it out. Just be a Google Doc that you all share. It's very simple, but it's just literally a conversation that's written down. And then if anybody joins the team, they already have a foundation for what's there. This is our agreement. We've agreed that these are our goals. This is what we're going to try. Let's add you into it. And so they're not thrown into something that's really frivolous. There's already some sort of foundation. And then the agreement in some way should be signed, even just metaphorically, that we all agree on this before moving forward, before it's real. Let's look at it, review it, and sign it. But essentially, it's a conversation. What are our goals? What are we trying to achieve? And you can also put in there, they're not rules, but they're essentially some sort of cultural norms. What are our norms as a group? Are we going to be on time? Are we going to not talk after a loss and give everybody cool off time? Like, what are 3 or 4 things that we're going to commit to make sure our team just feels good? What do you need as a player? Let's write it down now. And anytime, again, somebody leaves or comes, that person should be included. What do you need? What are your goals? Add them to this team. That way you just feel like someone's listening to you. You feel like you're working towards something, either as a team or as an individual, and both are really important. That's what I add to team charters.
Doug, if you're talking, I don't know if I can hear you.
All right.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Dr. Ampadu, how do you go through that then? If you're trying to craft mission and vision with a team, what does that look like?
Well, first you come up with the mission and vision. Ask them why they're here. Why did you come today? Why did you come to school? Why do you play esports? Why do you game? Why do you game after you lose a game? Why do you game after you win a game? To find out why your students are there in the first place, to find out their vision. Then you're able to create some goals off the vision, and then create some type of strategic focus areas on how we can achieve the goals that the students set. And then create strategic plans for each one of those goals. Sometimes for me, as more of an on the administrative end, is always the academic and professional development, their excellence on the game and in the classroom, being able to engage and have fun with our fans. We try to go out. So let's say for the fans, how do we get more fans to come out and support the team? So instead of us waiting for them to come to us, we always just go out to them. We go out to where they are. We meet them where they are. So we have like tabletop Wednesdays at Tennessee State University. And so we pop up at least 3 tables, 4 tables if we can get them, but they look at us with an eye because we have to leave tables for the other clubs as well. But set up a whole bunch of computers and PlayStations, and Xboxes, and just gaming computers where students can come, and they can come and play, they can come and watch. So a lot of the times we gain a lot of our fans just by interacting with other students and inviting them over to come see our competitions or click on our competitions live. So certain things like that help out with breaking down what is the overall goal of the team, kind of like one band, one sound, finding their, what I mean, finding what their mission is. But it's up to the student though. What is your mission? Because when the students feel like they're working towards their own personal goal and they have a team that's behind them that's like, yeah, let's go, they get so motivated. And then it's not me dragging them like, come on, don't you want good grades? It's, you know what I mean? Or don't you want to win? So, and then being able to see your goal and actually see yourself and your team actually work towards that helps motivate them to do well as also. So, it definitely starts with going back to the students and finding out what they want collectively, and then how can we break down goals to work towards that end. I can't hear you, Doug.
Did it again. We've got some loud family members in the house today. We have 3 kids, so they're 10, 9, and 4, so it can get loud here. But really quickly wanted to say that we have got some great questions rolling in, right? So I want to grab a couple of those questions from the chat. They really apply. We've got a lot of folks really active in there. So I think one that applies to what we're talking about right now. And actually, I'm going to start with Jarrell on this one because it specifically talks about K-12. But I also realize Jarrell and I are not the best people, most well-equipped people to answer this because it's about females, but it's also about K-12. So long way of saying, Jarrell, I'm asking you, but then we're coming for you, Bethany and Dr. Ampadu. So because it's about K-12, what strategies are you seeing for K-12 schools and coaches to encourage more representation? The question was specifically about the female population, knowing that, many more women are gamers or females are gamers than are getting involved on the teams. So what have you seen successful in the K-12 space?
Yeah, if there's one thing that NASEF has done really well, and this kind of bridges the gap between the last question to this one, is really that club charter and looking at a broader participation within the program. So the charter and these are templates, all of these resources are free for K-12 schools and community-based organizations. You can check us out on the website to download all of that. But essentially, the frameworks that we propose for K-12 programs again go back to our esports ecosystem graphic around all of the various career pathways that surround the competitive players and teams. Because at that point, like I said earlier, it exposes this culture and community to broader participation, beyond just what traditionally people think of as a gamer. If you have young people that are interested in streaming and shoutcasting, those are great avenues to get more folks involved. And they may not even like gaming. They may not even want to spend time gaming, but they want to perfect their skills within the space of public speaking and engaging others and, building the community. I mean, those are really the ways that you expand beyond just what you traditionally see as a stereotypical gamer, and when you start to include that within the framework of what you're developing, things like various roles and responsibilities and committees that you can create within the club space, that starts to create, again, more opportunity for folks to get involved. And as you get more folks, those are your leaders, right? Those are the ones that are going to go out and share, hey, I'm, the shoutcaster for our esports club. Like, you want to come and hang out and just, play, maybe check this out. They're going to be your advocates. And so, just like everyone has been saying, you have to start small, find those champions within the space that, are about building the community beyond just playing games. And that's how you start to welcome more and more folks. And it takes time. Building community doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take anywhere from a year, 2 years, sometimes up to 5 years, but it's that patience that you'll need in order to really effectively build and cultivate something that's going to last.
All right, Bethany, we're going to you now. Game Hers, obviously, it's a big part of the mission of the organization is to build a community for women and femme-identifying gamers. So what does that look like? What strategies could schools be using to encourage more representation?
So I'll talk a little bit about just the strategies that we use at Gamehurst because I don't think they're K-12 specific. I think you could use them anywhere. And I also think you could use them in traditional sports. And in other words, they're just strategies. They're just tools. The first thing that we're offering at the Gamehurst is a place to feel validated, which is probably the most important. And I could probably talk about this one for a long time, which is no matter how old you are, your interest being validated by another group of people will propel you so much further. It's going to give you the energy and stamina to stay in it when it's hard or where other groups are telling you you're not welcome. Just having a safe space where other people like you are also validating their interests goes such a long way. And I think that's why a lot of the strategies that we see in K through 12 are trying to build these just like boot camps for girls, just a safe space where they could just show up and not have any harassment, where they know they're going to be taken care of. It's really simple. The other ones are things like advocacy. So the Game Hers is obviously an entity with staff. And so our staff is working around the clock to build opportunities and also connections. Can we talk to Envy? Can we talk to the Cloud9s? Can we do this for them and advocate for the women that we have? Can we build tournaments with, folks that necessarily won't maybe do it on their own, but they would do it in tandem with us because we have the resources and we're also the women that are the most interested and passionate, maybe the loudest in the room. So just finding advocacy within the industry for women as kind of like the core space for them to go, building opportunities from there, and then sort of just building in resources along the way. There's not going to be an opportunity every single month. There's not going to be a massive tournament that we successfully find that's within our budget, but we can provide resources for growth as well. We do free workshops. We'll bring in anybody that's an expert in their field that wants to just kind of give back. If you want to be a streamer, we'll do Connect with Streamlabs. We did a Connect with Streamlabs where we did a free just one-on-one on how to stream, PC building, things like that, things that are generic to kind of the interest within the community where they can come and learn. So they're feeling like they have a place where they can actually learn. Along that, it's also a very safe place to fail. There's not a whole lot of that in esports, which is a lot of reasons why women especially don't feel like they can jump into that server and hang out. There's a lot of, let's take Rocket League, for example. If I love Rocket League and I want to go into the RLCS, I have to go into a Discord and I have to network. I have to know somebody. I have to be playing with people for them to notice me. And in a lot of these servers, you get kicked out just for having a female voice. Or you're just harassed to the point where they're spamming your Discord. They're doing things to you that you just don't have time for as a human. So just having a safe place to fail is really important for women. Nobody's perfect. The men aren't either. They're failing too, but they're doing it with a laugh. They're doing it with encouragement. They're doing it for fun. But when women fail, it's a disaster. Sometimes it's like your career's over. So just having a space to just like play with other people that are high level, but aren't going to like kick you out because you didn't hit that goal. It's a lot of things, a lot of layers, but essentially it's feeling safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff there. So Dr. Ampadu, I'm going to go to the next question. This one feels like we're starting with you. So how are you seeing programs and teams working with students that are talented gamers but are not going to go pro, right? So you said 55 students in your club right now, right? Odds are you're not going to have 55 pro gamers coming out of Tennessee State. So what does that look like? What do those conversations look like with those students?
I try my best to always have those conversations with my students. And I say that because a lot of times people don't realize that even with not just esports, but with other sports, the likelihood of you actually going pro is so slim. So making sure that they understand the importance of why you applied to college in the first place is to make sure that you have an education. Esports, definitely you can play on a competitive level and have that great competitive attitude, but at the same time, you always got to have a backup plan. So let's say even like a football player, if they wanted to go and play for the NFL, you have to make sure that football player knows that you have a 0.09 chance of making it. NBA, you have a 3% chance of making it. And then even when you do make it, you only have a 3.3 years of life or longevity within the NFL. It's the same thing with the esports. Like you have to realize and make sure that you encourage and make them like sit down and have like a real life conversation. It's great that you want to play, but at the same time, you always have to have a backup plan. Even though I did track since I was 5, and I stopped throwing when I realized that if I can breathe in, I may pass out and die due to COVID. I was like, I'm good. I did what I had to do, but to know and to always have a backup plan. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy. Like, you're getting your doctorates? Like, yeah, I am. Because at the end of the day, I know that this is just a phase, and you need to always be building your next phase while you're in this one. You don't ever want it to be a wake up call like, oh, I didn't make it. Like, you know what I mean? So definitely, I'm always encouraging my student athletes. It's not about, giving up on your goal of what you want to become. It's about planning your next phase of life while you're inside this one. So you will always be successful.
Ooh, good stuff. Good stuff, Dr. Ampadu. So we have got, actually, Jarrell, I feel like that is a question that you would love to answer right now as well. So I'm going to throw that one back up on there, right? So for those students who are talented gamers but are not going to go pro, but they want to have a career in the gaming world, what kind of conversations are we having with students around that?
Beyond the conversations, I think what I'm seeing a lot of educators really that are passionate about creating these pathways for students. I mean, beyond the club, which I think is important, and that seems to be the lowest hanging fruit across the programs, is to start a club, to start a community. More and more educators are now exploring cross-curricular pathways of integrating esports into the, just the day-to-day environment, right? So looking at things like career technical education as an opportunity to essentially remix some of those programs that may not be as interesting and sprinkle in a little bit of esports to make those interesting for the students. Then now you have a pathway for young people to be able to explore something that's interesting and potentially even get certified within the space. And you think of, again, all of those different career pathways around the ecosystem. You could look at graphic design and digital arts media, right? You can look at pathways around software development. You can look at all those various pathways and start to intersect esports into that. And the more that you really innovate those pre-existing programs, and that's one thing that I'll share that most fellows have done. It's one thing to start a brand new curricular program from scratch, which is very difficult, right? That usually takes like 2 to 3 years in any school environment. Just look at what you have, start to introduce gaming and esports into your particular pathway, and that'll get students excited about that particular subject. And I've seen so many different iterations of this from, obviously there's the natural game design, but even looking at things like, current events and looking at analytics and analyzing current events in the esports industry, and then writing something about that and writing about your opinion on what's going on. Just little things like that can make a huge difference in really exploring and opening up those potential career pathways and opportunities for students to kind of have that aha moment, like, oh, I don't just have to be a traditional, journalist. I can be an esports journalist, or I don't have to be, a scientist like they all want me to be. I could be I could study analytics within the game. I think there's just so many different opportunities that you can explore to be able to, empower young people to be, get excited about learning and get excited about, doing something big with their lives.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jarrell, for sharing that. I want to, first of all, thank all of you for being here for sure. But also want to open it up. We have these 3 amazing folks here. If any of you that are on right now want to ask each other a question, if there's something else that you feel like we haven't really touched on yet about building that inclusive community, this is definitely the time and the moment here. We're going to do the eyes. We're all going to look at each other on the screen and kind of go up and over. I'm just going to go to this. Bethany, anything you want to ask anybody else on here, or anything else you want to share about the work that the Gamehers is doing in the space to try to level the playing field or reduce the gaps that we're seeing?
Sure. A couple of things. Jarrell and I have worked together a lot. I feel like he and I are kind of a duo in the scene, even though we didn't plan for it. We just keep circling around each other. But I think that speaks to, like-minded people in this space do exist. And we are all trying to work towards something. And I think eventually we're going to see a lot of the fruit from our labor very soon. So I'm hopeful in this space, just based on the people I've met, including allies like men that are stepping up to allow women to take positions of power as well and stop gatekeeping their own positions. Jarrell is that person. And so I've met these people. I'm encouraged by this. One thing I'll add is that, after hearing about the pro scene, my goal is to redefine a lot of this. And if we can redefine what it means to be pro, I think that's what the Game Herds and some other groups are trying to do. What it means to be pro nowadays, like, please define it for me. If you mean by, a player that's pro making $1 million salary, sure. But one thing that I thought was really helpful for some youth that I worked with recently was looking at job descriptions inside the esports industry and reading the job descriptions and duties to them and saying, could you do that? And if not, like, what skill do you need in order to fill this requirement? What education do you still need to fill this requirement? Or sometimes encouraging them, I think you got this. I don't think you fill this, but you should just go for it. Some of this stuff is what's propelling things forward and redefining what it means to be pro. What about them just being a professional person, making a good living, happy with what they're doing? That's pro to me. Maybe they work for an org that they love, but I think essentially the three of us on this panel are trying to just redefine what it means to be a gamer, a competitive gamer, and who those folks are. And so I don't have any questions for this group. I just want to hang out with these folks afterwards and pick their brain more than anything, because I love real conversation. I'm not going to interview them here, but I want to say thank you for having me as well.
Absolutely. Dr. Ampadu, what about you? What's still on your mind? What do you want to throw out there? What's next for you all with esports in Tennessee State?
Next for esports in Tennessee State, man, we have a lot planned. Definitely, we decided to bring gaming to homecoming. Homecoming is like huge in the HBCU space. I mean, like, it's really huge, and being able to create that family atmosphere and inviting everybody. So last year we had a gaming fest. It was an HBCU tour, and they came and they did this huge fest. They had concerts. They had different tents and things like that, where people were able to game and compete against each other. So that was so much fun. They had a gaming truck. Definitely also trying to take gaming to virtual reality is definitely one of our initiatives at Tennessee State, doing things like Beat Saber or whatever other game that anybody else can think of that you think will be a positive impact onto the esports community. That's one of the things we're doing. And then also just making sure that we are being as inclusive as possible. Always consistently asking different people that wouldn't normally say, hey, I want to be on the esports team, but they play FIFA, you know what I mean? Or, you play Rocket League, or I call them like the closet esports players who they don't think that they're good enough yet. Bringing all those students out the closet and getting them on a team and allowing them to play and have fun and realize that this space is for everybody. It's inclusive. So definitely that's one of the things that I see in the nearby future. Hopefully we'll have at least, and I like to separate the team. So not everybody is a hardcore competitor, and we fully understand that. So we have just, people who like to just leisure play with each other. Please come on and still try out with the team. No worries. And then if we need an alternate, we have students who will be more than happy to jump on and play with the team. But definitely with Tennessee State, we look forward to linking up with different colleges and just really pushing esports like above athletics. My personal opinion. I love athletics, is where I came from, but knowing that I know their equation, I know how to beat them. And I definitely want every other institution and team and organization to do the same thing, and for us to really partner together to really push our students forward. But most importantly, just focus on academic, and then esports is most important here at Tennessee State University. But just in case anybody didn't hear, if you want to come to school, please let me know. Put your email or whatever in the chat. I'll be more than happy to make sure that your fee is waived for your application and that your first class is free. So just let me know. I'm more than happy to bring you on, and you get to play for the team. So why not?
Perfect. Jarrell, take us home here.
Whew, a lot of pressure again. To play off of what Dr. Ampadu was saying around redefining athletics, I mean, one thing that NASEF is working on, and it's a big project. We were awarded the CIF contract, and so we'll be working to redefine what scholastic esports is for the state of California in particular, and then more states to come. Hit me up if you want to. But I think part of what I'm really interested and passionate about has always been about building our community in the Scholastic Fellow program. And we recently closed the applications for that program, and we'll be launching hopefully by October, everything goes right. And really, I'm just excited to see what educators are doing for young people around the world. I mean, and to see the intersections of esports into unique pathways that we may not even have thought of in this call. And then ultimately to see what connecting a global community can do for young people to be able to interact with each other on this global platform that esports and gaming can provide. I think that's really where we can make a difference. Is we're now breaking beyond the boundaries of the classroom and opening it up to this worldwide world of esports and gaming, and really including as many young people, educators as we can through the process. But hopefully that'll help impact and change the way we operate as human beings as well.
Love it. So great. So thank you all so much for being here, for sharing your experiences with us. Thank you for those of you who have been posting things in the chat, in the comments. Sorry if we didn't get to your question. There were a lot of questions in there. I tried to bring them all up if I could, but we are past time here. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to any of us, and I'm speaking for all of us now without asking them, but reach out to any of us at any time if you want to talk more about how do you build this inclusive community around esports. So thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.